I want to thank everyone for being here today. To show honor and respect to Bill, I ask that you please take a moment to silence or turn off your cell phones at this time. At the beginning of the Torah, the Bible, we read that God created man by taking dust from the earth and breathing into that dust a nishmat chayim, a living soul. The Torah teaches us that all human beings are composed of a physical body and a living soul. And then, at the end of our days, our soul and our body separate again. Our physical body returns to the dust that it was created from, and our soul returns to God. Today we have the opportunity to ensure that Bill Schwartz's bodies return properly to its final resting place, and at the same time to honor his spirit, his soul, and ensure that it reaches its appropriate spiritual home. I'll begin with a chapter of Psalm 23. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar. A song of David, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Binot deshe yarbitzeini amei menuchot yinahaleni. God causes me to lie down in lush pastures. God leads me beside tranquil waters. Nafshi yishovev yancheni v'maglei tzedek l'man shemo. God restores my soul and guides me in righteous paths for God's name's sake. Gam ki elech begeit salmavet lo ira ra ki ata imadi shivtecha mishantecha hema yinachamuni. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you, God, are with me. Your scepter and your staff, they comfort me. Taroch lefanei shulchan neged sararai dishanta v'shem en roshi kosi revaya. You prepare a table before me in full view of my adversaries. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Ach tov v'chesed yirtefuni kol yemei chayai v'shavti b'veit Adonai li orech yamim. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of my days. The following eulogy was written by Bill's son Todd with the input of his brothers David and Craig and his mother Ruth. And it really does an incredible job, a beautiful and loving tribute to his father, and really captures what made him such a special person. Loving, kind, fun, approachable, smiling, and always singing, whistling, and laughing. Dad was a sweet and gentle man, yet firm at times too. He was well loved by many. Bill was born in Louisville, Kentucky, pronounced Louisville, by him and by his many siblings. He grew up in an Orthodox Jewish home with his parents, David and Anna. He played, prayed, and grew up happily there. The family would visit Louisville often, where he would bring them to his home, Male High School, and the JCC, where he was a great basketball player. So great was he that they had a picture of him hanging on their wall of fame. Affectionately nicknamed Sonny or Sonny Boy, which he would later sing to them, he had fond memories of his young childhood, often reciting his address even up until the last week, 1317 First Street, or First in Ormsby, where he played with his sisters Rose, Florence, Libby, and brother Jackie, and spoke also of his sister Geraldine. His dad died when he was younger. Bill's bar mitzvah was lovingly catered by his mother Anna, who won the Pillsbury Bake-Off for her 2-colored brownies, which he often raved about later in life. His family had great times together, as evidenced by the family celebrations that could be witnessed in the home movies that were shared by his nephew David Cooper. Family was very important to him, as again shown in these home movies, where he could be seen smiling and wrestling with his nephews, hiding behind trees, and best of all, laughing. This sense of family would become his greatest pleasure throughout his life, and even more so with his 3 boys. After graduating high school, Sonny Boy went to this University of Louisville, then on to Palmer College of Chiropractic Medicine in Davenport, Iowa, where he received his degree. Later in life, Bill's children found what a blessing it was to have a chiropractor at home, as they often laid on their beds to get his magical, "Okay, Joe, what do you know?" neck and back adjustments. He then went on to the Army for a bit during the Korean War, stationed at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas. In a weird twist of fate, many years later, Todd had the opportunity to visit San Antonio to see where his dad was stationed, only to find that he was quickly escorted off the base by Army GIs because it was a secured area, and he was told that he might be put in jail for trespassing. Upon his return to Louisville from the Army, Bill and his brother Jackie, who also became a chiropractor, formed a partnership and opened a chiropractic office together, which eventually multiplied into 3 offices in the greater Louisville area. Being involved with Jewish mixers in the Louisville social scene, he happily participated in them at the Sellback Hotel and other dance places. He made new friends and even had a redheaded girlfriend named Bunny for a brief stint. But it didn't work out, he told his children, and he wouldn't say why, but he kept on looking for that right woman and kept on going to those dances. Months later, he participated again in an overnight Jewish social mixture, but this time it wasn't in Louisville. It was in Miamisburg, Ohio. It was understood that this was going to be the place where his life would change forever. Bill came to this mixer with a group of guys and stayed with the other young men in cottages and slept on cots. The girls did the same thing, including his sister Libby, who stayed nearby in an adjacent cottage. Libby, sitting on a cot with cold creams and curlers, spoke of wanting to meet someone along with the other girls in the cabin, including the 2 new girls who had just entered and happened to be from Cleveland, Ohio. Libby and this one special girl from Cleveland became friendly. She shared to her that her brother Sonny was going to be joining them on Saturday night and that they should meet. And as Libby spoke further that evening, applying more Pond's cold cream and tightening her curlers, this one special girl from Cleveland, Ruthie, slowly became impressed with all the information and possible new introduction of her brother. Only being there for a 2-day weekend, there were activities and dancing at this mixer that everyone participated in, including the very last dance of the program. At this dance, history tells us, a young man from Louisville named Rudy, who was short, obese, and maybe not the best-looking guy in the world, approached Ruthie to dance. She didn't accept his dance request and became uncomfortable, but as fate would happen, a much taller, 6'3", dashing, smiling chiropractor from Louisville saw her uneasiness and jumped in to ask Ruthie to dance. She happily accepted. Rudy was annoyed and walked away very disappointed. But Bill and Ruthie danced, they smiled, they chatted for the rest of the evening. And it ended with Bill asking Ruthie for her number before he returned to Louisville. And life, of course, took its own path on from there. For a few months, Bill and Ruth called each other and visited. Ruthie often took a Greyhound bus to Kentucky, and Bill conversely drove to Cleveland. He met Ruthie's brothers, Archie, Al, and Willie, and her mother, Jenny, and father, Morris, and they all hit it off well. Ruth would come to Louisville and visit with Bill, and met several of his siblings, including Rose and Florence and Jackie and their mother, Mama Annie. And after a year later, Bill finally proposed, and Ruthie happily accepted. Ruthie initially moved to Louisville and lived there for 4 years. While there, she was employed by Sidney, Bill's brother-in-law, selling clothes for Sidney's ladies' clothing store, as Bill and his brother Jackie ran their chiropractic practice. While in Kentucky, Bill and Ruth welcomed their new addition, David, but found Cleveland was to be calling them back, as Ruthie's mother, Mama Jenny, had some health issues. Ruth had gone back and forth via Greyhound bus many, many times because her father, Morris, needed her help to have her come home and take care of her mother. Bill agreed to come to Cleveland because he deeply loved Ruth and wanted her to be happy. So they came to Cleveland and they built a new life together. Upon getting settled, Bill got involved in the shoe business because he found that he would have had to take the Ohio State medical boards in order to recertify as a chiropractor. And there were so many things going on at their life at this point, including a new son on the way, Todd. A few short years later, another bundle of joy, Craig, appeared in the family, and it was now finally complete. Bill found himself working as a buyer and manager of Schwartz Shoe Corporation and traveled on their behalf. Bill found much, if not most, of his joy in spending time with people, not with things, but people, and especially through spending time with his family. He loved his new Cleveland family as well as his family in Kentucky. He thought of Al and Archie and Willie as being brothers, married, of course, through his wife, Ruthie. He also loved his sister-in-law, Sally, Reva, and Eunice, respectively. Later in years, as Alzheimer's set in very slowly, Todd would often ask his father to recount the names of all the family members and to fill them in accordingly. He would say Al, and Bill would say Sally. He would say Archie, and Bill would say Reva. He would say Willie, and Bill would say Eunice, along with Bill's own sisters and their husbands, Sydney, Florence, Jackie, Diane, Rose, Rudy, Myron, and Libby. He knew them all up until the very end, and he loved them all very, very much. Speaking of family, he absolutely loved his yearly Thanksgiving meal with his large Cleveland family, with close to 60 first cousins celebrating and extended family celebrating together. Even to this day, he so loved attending Al and Sally's, and later at Cousin Debbie and Keith's home. He loved the feeling of family coming together. He could always be seen at these gatherings, whistling and smiling and happily eating Sally's turkey and Ruth's famous sweet potatoes with marshmallows. He loved kids, of course, because at his heart, he was a kid. He loved and enjoyed his many nephews and nieces and great-nephews and great-nieces, often singing and whistling with them, and of course, always smiling. From 4th of July outings and watching fireworks to Passover and Hanukkah and Halloween, he loved all these celebrations. He loved going back home for his yearly vacation and the 6-hour drive to Louisville to visit his family and nephews, especially Kevin and Freddie and Jason and Adam and David Cooper and more. Notwithstanding, he also loved his special Hanukkah celebrations with his beloved Ruthie, his boys, his daughter-in-laws, and his 4 grandchildren. Ruthie was Bill's wife, partner, and friend for 55 wonderful years. They laughed, cried, loved, and went through their ups and downs of marital life, as most do, but through it all, they were there for each other. Ruth enjoyed Bill's singing, whistling, and camaraderie, and always dining out together. Bill loved her with every breath of his heart and made her feel special and very, very loved every day. They worked hard together to raise 3 sons and had many friends. And again, the greatest pleasure to Bill was to spend time with his Ruthie. From her picking him up at the mall after work to family vacations, a cruise, traveling to Paris, even the Flower Drum song in Chicago for their honeymoon, he loved her and these memories and the many moments that they created together. David was a special son, as he was the first. Bill helped David grow by playing baseball with him, helping him do his homework, and collecting comics or funny books, as he often referred to them. He was a chief to David's Indian, an Indian guide sitting with a big ceremonial chief hat, joking with him and even recalling a bad experience, sleeping outside together on the ground in sleeping bags. He also liked Tris Speaker, watching David play ball with the other boys. Later, he found fun times in going to visit David at Kent State. As time marched on, he was very excited when David found someone and proposed to his very pretty wife, Andrea. Andrea often joked with Bill at various family gatherings, and they each enjoyed each other's company a lot. They would sit over dessert and smile and kibitzed. He so loved and enjoyed his first beautiful granddaughter, Julia, and then his handsome grandson, Joshua, when they each came into the fold. He loved babysitting them and passing out Halloween candy from their home, going to school concerts, Jellystone Park, and spending much time with them. They were each so very special to him, as family and children were his mantra. Craig was his special son, as he was his last. He so enjoyed and loved his Craigie, and would often wrestle with him and play basketball on Green Road, after breaking a window on the garage door as Ruthie screamed at them. He would also play ball in the field as they hit balls over the fence, only to hit the house across the way, and the neighbors would come out and complain as their aluminum siding was now dented. He was happy to be part of Craig's involvement with the Heights Singers of Cleveland Heights High School. As Craig became president, Bill and Ruthie were also president of their Parents Association, and they enjoyed it tremendously. They traveled with the high school kids and enjoyed their singing, watching Craig perform along. Bill was thrilled when Craig graduated law school, as he knew how hard he worked, and even more so when he met his beautiful wife, Beth, and they got married. Beth enjoyed conversations with Bill and dinners out at their home. Having two more beautiful grandchildren, Alyssa and Brennan, only added to that joy. He loved having Jingle Bell contests with Brennan to see who could sing the song faster, and he loved watching Alyssa dance and those moments as a toddler when she would come and sit on his lap and he would sing to her. Also, let's not forget birthdays, which were very special, as he loved participating in the cake and ice cream portion with each and every grandchild. As his middle son, Todd was also very special to his father. He had a unique bond which grew stronger as he got older. Bill enjoyed joking with Todd a lot, and most of all singing. He loved watching Todd grow, as he did his other boys, but loved Todd most when he performed at home acting silly. Bill also played basketball with him and sang often in the car of old show tunes. But Todd gave Bill a bit more of a run for his money. Often he would pick up the boys for lunch at Wiley Middle School and take them to Burger King across the street, always being late to return them back. And I mean always. Bill didn't want to let the boys go back, as he lovingly enjoyed every moment they spent together. He enjoyed Todd participating in the Singing Angels and really got to know all of Cleveland and the surrounding areas as a result. In the days way before GPS, Bill had a very, very keen sense of direction and found churches and venues from Lakeside, Ohio to downtown to Strongsville and Hinckley. This Louisvillian was calling Cleveland home more and more every day. As most know, living with his parents, Todd assisted his dad with daily activities and kept him going, along with Ruthie, David, and Craig. As he aged, Bill wouldn't listen to the nurses about exercising so much, but only to Todd when he encouraged Bill to keep moving even up until the last week. As he was in rehab at Menora Park, Bill was getting better and was due to come home this past Friday. The Friday a week prior, Todd was out of town on business, but came home that first night of Passover. He came home late and exhausted and did not attend the family Seder at Cousin Danny and Julie's. As Ruthie, however, did participate, and David and Craig went to their respective in-laws with their families to participate, Todd went to see his dad, as he didn't want him to be alone on Passover night. Upon arrival, Bill was in the dining area doing puzzles and smiled when he saw Todd. He asked, "Do you know what tonight is?" And Bill replied, "Passover." And Todd said, "Good." As he thought about Passover, Todd thought to himself, let's make this night different from all other nights, and take Bill out of the facility for a drive. He asked the nurse, who was not too keen on having Bill go out, but she said, "I can't stop you." Todd sensed that night Bill was in good spirits and strong, so he decided to take him out. He signed Bill out and slowly sneaked him past the rabbi who was holding a Seder for 150 people in the main dining hall singing the 4 questions. But just as they were about to walk by, what does Bill do? He starts singing the 4 questions, just as Todd is trying to sneak him out, and he's singing them loudly. Todd told him to hum instead of yelling them, and they quickly passed through until they got to the outside where the getaway car was waiting. Bill on his own got into the car, and away they went. He was glad to be out and whistled, but also told Todd to stop driving too fast. Watch for the red light, watch for the green light, and go slow accordingly. They ended up taking a long drive to Mentor where no one could find them and landed at Denny's. Bill got out on his own, manipulating his walker while whistling, and then sat to enjoy coffee with his son. They told the waitress his birthday was that night before and asked, "What would you like to eat?" And Bill, of course, replied ice cream, his all-time favorite food and motivator. But he also wanted pancakes, and Todd, knowing it was Passover, attempted a bit of a compromise. He decided to give the waitress their order, and within 15 minutes, an order of pancake puppies with strawberry and chocolate ice cream and fresh strawberries, along with 12 waiters, waitresses, and cooks, came to sing Bill happy birthday. This was the present. Upon conclusion of their song, which Bill sang along to, Todd asked his father, "What do you want to say to everyone, Dad?" And Bill sang back, "And many more." Oh, and what was their Jewish Passover compromise, you may ask? It was Todd and Bill singing the 4 questions in Hebrew on their way back home. Bill's immediate family also gathered to celebrate for a birthday brunch just a short week ago, where he enjoyed his two favorite things, family and ice cream. As his health declined over the years with Alzheimer's, many doctors and nurses shared that he was a model patient as he was moving and active much longer than they expected. Even though this past week his heart gave out, his love didn't, as we are remembering his warm smile with love. We all breathed life into him as much as he breathed life into us. In closing, we are proud, honored, and happy to call our sonny boy dad and husband, as he will be so greatly missed by the many lives he touched. Loving and respecting him, whenever we hear a whistle, we will be looking up at heaven, thinking of him and missing him so greatly, smiling with all our hearts. These are truly, truly touching words, and they show a great love between Bill and his family that is not often so obvious, nor so often lovingly shared. I really want to commend Todd for putting these beautiful memories together, putting them to paper, and articulating them again with just such love and such care. It seems appropriate to note that Bill passed away on Pesach, because Pesach is such a time for family, and the theme of family was so central to Bill's life. Right? Pesach is a time in which family gathers together to share in each other's company. But it's not just a social endeavor, right? There's a spiritual level to it as well, too. Passover is the one holiday in which the central mitzvah, the central commandment or custom, is not to be done in the synagogue, but rather it is to be done in the home with one's family. And there's a very great significance to this. The chief rabbi of England, Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, argues that there are two ways in which a people can attempt to achieve eternity. And he points to the two answers, one offered by the Egyptians, the other offered by the Jewish people. The Egyptians' answer to how a people attains eternity was to build massive pyramids, which still stand today. And they're a testimony to the ingenuity and the hard work of the ancient Egyptians. But of course, the ancient Egyptian people are no longer with us. The Jewish secret to eternity was not a physical structure, but the passing down of a story. The story of the Exodus from Egypt that was told from one generation to the next, from fathers to sons. It's a story that can only be passed on with love. And it was through the power of that story that the Jewish people survived through thousands of years of persecution and exile. It was through parents sharing the Jewish story with their children with love. It's truly incredible to hear Bill's story as it has been told by his children. It too is a story of love. I know the love Bill had for his wife, for his children, for his grandchildren, for his extended family. It was returned to him even more so these last years of his life. It was through all of your love and dedication that you enabled him to really thrive. I know that as we say goodbye to Bill today, his family wants to thank him for all his love and kindness, for being a gentle soul, a great dad and grandfather. They want to thank him for the generosity of spirit that he always shared with him, for his smile, and of course for his whistle as well. Tehei nishmato tzura b'tzura chayim, may Bill's soul forever be bound up in the bonds of eternal life. Yehei zichro baruch, and may his memory forever be a blessing. We don't recite Kemalei Rachamim, the memorial prayer, as today follows immediately after the holiday. The burial will be at Mount Olive Cemetery, immediately following the funeral service. And following the burial, the family will be sitting Shiva from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. today at the loft at 1010 Eaton Boulevard in Beechwood. Again, they will also be sitting Shiva on Monday and Tuesday from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Friends who may contribute to the gathering place in Bill's memory. At this time, I'd like to call the pallbearers forward. Please rise.